Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Japanaholic podcast, the podcast surrounded by topics all about Japan, anime, and games discussed by certified Japanaholics. I am your host, Taylor Frey, joined this week once again by Alex.
Hey, how's it going, guys? How's it going, Taylor?
Yeah, it's been quite the few weeks, especially since just recently I have watched the OVA finale of the series that we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the Oresuki series. Actually, now looking at that Japanese name, I'm not going to try and say that because I would butcher it, the third syllable. So, but the full title is Oresuki, Are You the Only One Who Loves Me?, which is a RomCom series that we're going to be discussing here today. Okay, so I'll ask you this question real quick because you seem to be quite the reader. How much of this series have you ingested?
All of it.
All of it?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I picked up the manga when it was around chapter 10 and read it as it released for a very long time.
See, the only thing I've seen is the anime. I've actually read a little bit of the manga, but I have not read anything from the light novel because I didn't realize that there was a light novel until I looked more into it.
My understanding is the light novel is just about identical.
Yeah. That tends to happen a lot. I mean, there's been some...
Or let me rephrase that, identical to the manga. Let's don't group that up with the anime.
You'll find out why once we get to the spoilers here. I think so. You'll probably give more information on it. I have no clue, because like I said, I've only seen the anime, and when I was watching the ending, I saw some comments on Crunchyroll that were saying like, oh, well, the manga took this kind of turn, so I'm surprised it did this kind of turn. You know, they're the typical comments every once in a while. But, so before we get into like our thoughts and opinions on the stories and stuff like that, we're gonna take a couple minutes out of this podcast to kind of explain what this series is, in case you have not seen the series and are interested in it. Because this is a relatively new anime series that we're talking about. I mean, it came out last year. I think it was like fall 2019, if I remember correctly, that it actually started airing. But we're gonna talk a little. We're gonna like talk about the story and give like a little grasp on what to expect when watching the series, and then after that, we'll get into the full-fledged review and go spoiler mode or whatever. Alex, I'll let you give like a little brief intro to this.
All right, so Oresuki is, I would say it's a pretty good parody of what a typical harem is. Well, speaking about the manga per se. It's kind of like a subversion of the genre, and that's what drew a lot of people, including me, into the series. It's about a boy named Joro-kun who likes to, I shouldn't say he likes, he puts on an act pretending to be this perfect, amazing guy to try to get his perfect, amazing high school romance, only to have that be foiled just about every step of the way by Best Girl Bench-kun.
The bench makes so many appearances in the anime, it's not even funny. But it is funny every time it comes up.
It catches you by surprise every time.
Especially in the finale. Oh my god, we'll talk more about that. I'll talk more about it, at least on my end. Once we get to that point. But I got into this series because when I was looking at new animes of that season, fall 2019, to watch, I saw this one on the list and I was like, huh, this looks like an interesting series. I looked at the synopsis and I'm like, oh my god, this may actually be a pretty hilarious show to watch, because it is a harem, but it's also a parody harem, which there's not a whole lot of these, at least that are adapted.
I believe I originally found this series through a subreddit called Anime IRL, which is just basically one panel or one page memes and jokes from various mangas. And I'm fairly certain that Benj-kun was at some point posted on that subreddit, and I went on to see what the manga was. Fell in love. It took me more chapters than usual to like this manga. I will say that it definitely took me a little bit longer than the average manga to pull me in and get me interested. But once I did, I couldn't put it down.
I think I know that subreddit that you're talking about now that I think about it, because I think if it's the one you're talking about, they on their Twitter page they usually have like this. I don't know if it's a bot or whatever, but it posts random post or whatever from that subreddit onto their Twitter page, and most of them get like a good amount of likes or whatever. It's just like a kind of like a random Twitter page or whatever, and it takes like a random post from that subreddit and posts it on there.
Yeah, like one of them Autobots.
I think that's how I actually. I don't know. Well, like I don't know if it's how I got this series like you did, but I think I saw something like this. I don't know how long ago, but I know it was after I got interested in this series, from the My Anime List page. But I think I saw something similar to it as well with the bench and stuff like that. And the one thing I will say this though is that I find it incredibly hilarious with how they use a bench or whatever as like the main villain, I guess you'll say, at least for the first part of the series, because you think with like the whole running gag with the bench, you would think that the bench would just be like, oh, it's just another inanimate object, but the way they use the series portrays the bench as like this evil character, and anytime two people sit on it, there's rejections or whatever going on. I don't know why. I find the bench to be one of the best characters of the show. Top 3 easily.
The last non-spoiler thing I'll say is, if you don't like the first arc, just push through it just a little bit to get to arc 2. I know that Juro-kun starts off as a pretty big asshole, and that doesn't really change, but he becomes more of a lovable asshole as the series goes on. Don't let his attitude and character in the first arc deter you from finishing the series, because it almost deterred me enough to the point where I stopped reading, but I powered through and definitely got to enjoy some sweetness through the end.
The thing is I'm the complete opposite when it comes to Joro. I fucking love him so much. He's such an asshole, but I love that kind of persona, I guess.
I suppose there's 2 types of people in this world.
Well, yeah. And I feel like with this review, there's going to be 2 different reviews in one episode. But then again, not everybody can have the same taste. If we all had the same taste, there'd be no such thing as a bad show or a good show. There'd just be that show, I guess. I don't. But last thing I'll say before we get into some spoilers, okay? For anybody who is wanting to actually read this, read the light novel or the manga, I think, according to what you told me, the series is coming to an end? Maybe soon?
The manga is complete. I believe the last volume of the light novel is either releasing soon or already released. I don't follow the light novel because, as far as I know, it is just about identical to the manga.
Mm-hmm.
So either it's releasing or it's getting up to the release.
Mm-hmm. And a part of me thinks that the series itself will I don't think there will be any like spinoffs or whatever, although with how I'm not gonna get into spoilers right now, but it would be cool to get some spinoffs, possibly like a what if he went with this direction, or what if he went in that direction. But then again, that takes some.
We'll
serious
save that
dedication.
for the spoiler talk.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. So if you're up to this point of the podcast episode and you have not seen the series, this is where I highly recommend pausing this episode, go check out the series, and then come back to the rest of this episode. But if you've already heard, or if you've already seen the series up to the end point, the end game or whatever, then you're free to continue on listening or whatever. Or even if you have or haven't, finished the series, you're free to listen all the way through. Just know that you've been warned for spoilers. All right, spoiler time.
Just to correct what I said, it seems like the light novel is not ended yet and is still releasing. I really can't find very much information on it.
All right. I'll let you give off your first thoughts and opinions, or at least for the most part, while I shove this pizza roll down my throat.
Do you particularly care for manga spoilers? I wanted to make sure of this beforehand.
Not
before
really.
I start
I don't really care,
shit.
especially if it's over, especially if it's completed or getting there.
So the first thing I noticed is the anime really rushed things. Like maybe I shouldn't say rush. I guess maybe they. My point is that the anime finished before the manga did, so they had to give a different ending, obviously. However, instead of pacing out the arcs and doing things proper as the manga and then splitting later on, they rushed everything and split around episode 4.
Damn.
They rushed basically the contents of about 40 about 25 to 30 chapters in the course of 2 episodes, and then went all in their own content. Some of the stuff that they missed between those 20 chapters, they sprinkled in throughout the rest of the season, but a lot of the content was not familiar. It was either altered things from the manga or wasn't in the manga at all. A lot of the characters weren't in the manga at all. Like, to be exact, like towards a lot of the characters towards the end weren't in there. Like Cherry wasn't in there, or
really
Suki Mimi wasn't in the manga.
Oh wow.
Well, actually, according to the wiki, the wiki doesn't have anything about her being in the manga, so I was right. She wasn't in the manga. So they skipped a lot. The stuff with Kamata happened right at the end in the manga, and.
Wow.
So yeah, and overall, the manga ending was so much fucking better. I didn't like the manga ending, but it was still fucking better than what that OVA was. That OVA was so... I shouldn't say it was bad, but my biggest gripe with the show was that in the manga, it didn't feel like as much of a generic harem as the anime made it feel. Like, in the manga, it took, 30 chapters for the other girls to start realizing that Joru doesn't suck. And even then... I shouldn't say doesn't suck, but it's more... They didn't start They didn't start being in love with him until, close to the final arc.
Uh-huh.
It was, 35 chapters in when we started. It was, the second to last arc where we got hints that other people love Joru.
Uh-huh.
And, the final confession to Sumika, is that how you say her name?
Was it Pansy?
Yeah, Pansy. I don't know how
to say
the Japanese name. The final confession to her was just done so much better than... in the OVA, it feels like they just kind of slapped it in, oh yeah, by the way, I love you.
Yeah, that's the one gripe I had with the OVA ending. It was oh yeah, by the way, I truly do love you. It was at the final, 15 seconds. It was okay, I understand,
I'm having a bit of a brain fart. Did the anime have the flower dance arc?
Yeah. Yeah. It was in the middle of the... I don't know exactly what episode it was on, but I know it was in the middle of the series, and all the girls had the chance with him.
That's the second to last arc in the manga.
Oh, God.
That happens. So basically how it goes is the flower dance happens. The school realizes there's a little kind of filler arc in between that where he gets a job to buy a present for Pansy. But then right after that, it kind of goes into people start realizing that Pansy was the girl in the flower arc, and they all start swarming her. So it gets down to Sun-chan is going... I don't know why I keep saying Chan and Kun. I'm not that much of a weeb. Sun goes, okay, well, we're going to enter a fake relationship with Pansy. I'm going to confess to her in front of the whole school so everyone stops bugging her. And then, as it goes, Joro is just I can't let that happen. And he decides to confess to her in front of the whole school before Sun does.
Oh, damn.
And there's, 2 pages of them walking home, and that's how it ends.
Oh.
I think that's better than just randomly collecting a bunch of fucking hair clips and going, oh, yep, I like you. It was literally, he even says, by the way, probably should tell you. Like that whole... when you told me that the anime and OVA were different, I was really hoping that the OVA ending was going to be better than the manga ending, but it just ended up being significantly worse.
I feel like, though, for me, okay, because you're a manga person, so you read up on, like, the actual, like, source material and stuff like that.
Yes,
however,
that should be said that I generally prefer mangas over anime.
Yeah. For me, since it's, like, the only thing I've seen, I really haven't, I obviously haven't, I don't know exactly how much of it is rushed or how much of it was cut out or how much, how the pacing goes compared to the manga. I obviously don't if I haven't read the manga myself. But I will say this, though. I think this is basically what happens when you give a series, the airtime, but when it's only a season and you're trying to give it, like, a nice ending and stuff like that. But, manga's not really, don't have, like, chapters or stuff like that. Shit just hits the fan. And I don't know exactly if this was intended to happen, because, I mean, there's been series where it's like, we'll differ how it goes in the anime compared to the manga, because if you want a different, ending, you go buy the fucking manga or something like that. But I don't know if this was done on purpose, because with how the pacing goes, with how the pacing went, because it was, like, clearly rushed in some ways. It's like, oh yeah, this was done on purpose. But then it's like, there's parts where it's like, I don't know if they just wanted to do the manga ending, but they couldn't do the manga ending, so they had to do their own ending. And
it's more, the pacing it's less rushed and more just inconsistent, I guess is a better way to put it. Because to correct something I said earlier, it was 17 chapters they jammed into 2.5 episodes. Which is not as bad as 25, but it's still pretty fucking bad to shove 17 chapters in 2.5 episodes.
That's almost 2 volumes for one episode.
Yeah, that is particularly rushed. Yeah, but then putting the flower dance directly in the middle of the season instead of being at the end like it should have, and then putting more filler shit. Then again,
I don't remember exactly where it was. I know it was definitely, like, near the end of the season. I'll pull up
VRV just so we can get an exact.
Yeah, because I know it was in, like, the middle portion, but I don't think it was, like, in the very middle, like episode 6 or whatever. I could be wrong, because it has been a while since I actually seen, like, the 12 episodes before the OVA. Because to be quite honest, it didn't look like there was going to be a season 2 at all, but, like, it was just a major question of whether or not, there was going to be a finale. And then we get announced that it's like, oh yeah, there will be a finale, but it'll be, like, 6 months down the line. Go ahead and, wait patiently. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, half the people who watched the series forgot about this ending until, just now or whatever. I mean, it came out, like, just a few weeks ago, or yeah, a couple weeks ago, in fact, but still.
The pacing is definitely not that great. I mean, by episode 4, they're already in he's evil. Everyone in the school knows he's evil, and it's resolved by episode 4. Episode 5 starts the newspaper club, that's around the chapter 20 right there. So that's they jumped around a little bit through that. And then here's what the really big jump was, going to the dance. They did the job before the dance on here. I'm sorry, the flower dance was episode 7, then they did the job stuff. So that means episode 7 through 13 would have been original-ish content, quote-unquote.
So about half the series.
Half the series. It's hard to tell what was original, because that would be around where the anime. That would be around where the manga was when the anime released. Honestly, okay. Disclaimer: For all I know, this could be light novel stuff, and everything I've read was wrong, and the light novel and manga is different.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the wiki for these characters, there's nothing about them being in a light novel. So I would say enough evidence is stacked for me being at the anime and manga. The anime is not following the light novel.
Yeah.
Maybe the light novel had this level of pacing, and the manga fixed that. Is the only other solution I see to that.
Yeah. If we're talking like for just a little other like a subject change of just for a second, because I'm taking a look at like the actual studio who made this, which was Connect Studios. The only other like series that I've seen from Connect Studios, and they do have a good chunk of animes, but like the only one that's really like big is either Strike the Blood or Busho Shoujo. But the other show that I've seen from them is Sanryu Shoujo. I butchered that first part, but you get what I'm trying to say. That's like the only other show that I've seen, and that one right there was even then it was like a 12 short episode one where it was like 12 minutes long. So I haven't seen much from Connect Studios. So the reason why I looked this up was because I was trying to see if there's like a possibility that it was more of like a studio issue, because sometimes, you know, depending on the studio that makes the animes, sometimes stuff like this can happen when it comes to how the endings are formed or how the routes are formed in terms of like the anime story. But I have only seen one other show, and since that other show is a short series show, so it's not even 24 minutes, I can't really speak much on it. Even though I thought I watched more from Connect, but I guess I haven't. But to go on back to the good old OVA episode, okay, or at least good old for me, because as much as that ending was like made up an original way or whatever, I'll say this right now, I don't think I've ever been that excited about a baseball game in my entire life. Okay. Because, like, I'm not a baseball guy. Like, I can't sit and watch an entire game of baseball or even have it as a background thing. And no offense to anybody who is a baseball fan, but, like, there's only so much my short attention span can take. But when watching that OVA, I was like, oh, not only will I get a finale on who Jorah will get with, which, let's be honest, it was kind of predictable, but anyways, but not only that, but like this baseball game and shit like that, you know, there's like two different stories going on with like Sun Chan and that cocksucker who was betrayed him in elementary school. I forgot his name again, but fucking hell, for the series being like, you know, because I went into this series thinking it was gonna be like another harem show or whatever. And, you know, seeing that it was going to have like its little twists and turns, I watched that final OVA episode or whatever. I'm just like, holy shit, there's too many twists and turns. This is like a fucking roller coaster. There's, you know, you think you're done, but here's another sharp turn. You think you're done then. Well, here's a hairpin turn and a U-turn just up ahead. It's like there's so many twists and turns that my brain is going to melt from all these turns and trying to understand these turns. Now, the turns that were going on through the show, though, were absolutely phenomenal, of course. But there were so many, it was just like, okay, can we stop with the turns before it just becomes a fucking road course?
But already, I seem to stand corrected. It looks like that the anime followed the light novel up. The manga skipped arcs. So I will have to stand corrected and take back what I said.
Wow.
I didn't want to spoil. I spoiled some of the light novel stuff for me, which I kind of wanted to avoid. But yeah, it looks like the light novel, the manga is what was a different one here. And the light novel has 8 more arcs after where the anime ended, or the manga ended. I mean.
Oh, so looks like the light novel is nowhere near being done, I guess.
Yeah, info was through Google Translate and Twitter, so. I will correct myself when I'm wrong.
All right. So it looks like out of the 3 things, it looks like the manga was different from everything.
Looks like
else.
the manga is the poor man out here.
Oh, well, that sting a little.
Yeah, that definitely stings for a manga, a person who primarily does manga. That definitely stings for me a little bit. But that doesn't change my comment about how much they jammed into each episode.
That is true, though. It did kind of feel like there was a little bit of like
The only comments that really gets rid of is, honestly, that doesn't really change that changes one part of what I didn't like. That doesn't change the characters or the writing. Because the general reception to the things the anime changed that I mentioned, such as the characters and everything, seems to be pretty similar to my opinion, that not a lot of people liked how the characters all were just madly in love with Joru through the entire thing.
That's the thing, is like Sunshine doesn't get like any sort of love at the end except for
at
Joru.
all.
I know. It's like fucking like, when watching the OVA, I actually felt happy with the route that they went to, which was the Bros Before Hoes kind of ending. I loved it because it was like, dude, Sunshine gets like no love for like the entire series, but he finally gets the love that he deserves at the end of the show.
There is the flower dance or shortly after the flower dance in the manga, there was a little mini arc where all the girls trying to impress Joru, and Sun-chan beats them all and being better for Joru than all of them.
I mean, come on, Bros Before Hoes. What can you say? Oh my god. Oh, I will admit though, when I watched the OVA and I was like, all right, I you know, even if it was only the Bros Before Hoes arc or like the route, I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. That's a good ending. Because yeah, I kind of wanted to see Joru get with somebody at the end there, which he did. He got with fucking Pansy, but like we said before, it was only like a 20-second segment at the very end while the ending song was going. Okay? But
literally.
It's like he goes through all this pain and he goes through all this sort of hell, and he's all like, all right, I can finally confesses to everyone, and then, you know, goes to Sunshine's all like, oh, dude, Bros Before Hoes, man, I'm alright. And then it's like, you're like, most people are left with like, well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? And then they get to like the final like 2 minutes, and then it's like, oh, well, there you go, you know, Joru actually gets with Pansy at the end there, but you know, we're mostly dealing with the, you know, Joru and Sunshine. Yeah, those two, the best. They obviously had to do this all on a bench. The bench makes not one but two appearances in the OVA finale.
I think to surmise my biggest issues would just simply be the pacing of the characters falling in love with Joru. Because Joru really had to... One of my favorite things about the manga is that once he changed to be his real self, that's when everyone slowly started to fall in love with him. I feel like we really didn't get that in the anime, that they just almost immediately fell in love with him and stayed in love with him the whole time. Like, you don't even, like... I mean, maybe this could just be being dense as a reader, but you really don't get the implication that that Himiwara loves him until, like, close to the final arc. And even then, that could still be construed as her being friendly with him. The only one in the manga that really outwardly loves him would be the President Lunar.
Oh.
So I think that's really mostly where my issues lie in the anime, is just removing some of the uniqueness of the anti-harem that the manga holds up true to.
True.
And hopefully the light novel stays it, because I'm about to start reading that shit now.
That's understandable in some ways.
So the most important question to you and me is, who's best girl? Not counting Bench-kun.
Is there? I mean, honestly, to me, this could just be my unpopular opinion, and maybe a whole lot of people will disagree with me, and that's fine. We all have our nice little taste. But Pansy, obviously. No, I mean, all the other girls are amazing girls, but Pansy, obviously.
With me, it was a really close first place. It was really close first place for Lunar and the newspaper girl Asunara. Asunaro.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the newspaper girl from her first appearance.
I will say this. As much as I do say Pansy is best girl, I loved all the girls, okay? It's really difficult for me to pick just one girl out of, like, a huge cast of them. And, speaking of that cast, just really quick, one of them...
It's really hard to pick a best girl remembering all these characters.
That's true. One of the characters, and this is... I hate doing this because I really love Naotoyama. Okay, she's my absolute favorite seiyuu, but she does play a character in this series. She played what's her name? Hold on, Chiharu Yoki, nicknamed Tsubaki. She doesn't really make a huge appearance. So as much as I love Naotoyama, okay, I unfortunately can't really I can't really put Yuki in the top of the girls list. However,
see, I really liked her.
Seeing
her character and being reminded of her is what made me make the comment of, man, it really is hard to choose best girl. Right.
And yeah, it's like I love all the girls, especially Pansy and especially Chiharu. I'm biased towards Chiharu because of Naotoyama, of course. But I obviously outside of Benchkid, it's got to be Pansy. Gotta be Pansy for me.
And let's be honest, one other big reason I typically don't like harems because the girl I like never wins, like, ever.
Thank you! Fucking hell, that's the
to the point where I stopped reading harems.
I hate that about harems so much.
After quintessential quintuplets, I stopped reading harems because there's no point in getting your feelings mangled when you know your best girl isn't gonna win.
I fucking hate that shit, dude. It's like, okay, I'll give off 3 examples here real quick. Nisekoi, I loved Kirisaki, so it's like, I already knew she was gonna win. But, like, the thing is like, even though she was gonna win, I was like, damn, I hate it for all the other girls.
See, the funny thing with Nisekoi is you weren't around and was releasing for the fucking wars that went down over that one.
Yeah, I know.
I have never seen a bigger waifu war
than
Onidere versus...
You thought it was terrible during Nisekoi. It's like that with Rent-A-Girl right now, okay? Because, I mean...
Is there that big of a reaction for that one?
Well, for right now,
I feel like nobody's watching Rent-A-Girl this season.
Oh, there's a shit ton of people. I mean a shit ton. Okay? I'll say this right now. Let me talk about quintessential quintuplets real quick though before I get to Rent-A-Girlfriend. Quintessential quintuplets did piss me off because I actually liked all the girls except for Nino. I don't care who the fuck won except Nino. If Nino won, that's when I got pissed because I didn't like her at all. I was mostly a Miku girl. I'll give myself that. But
I was mostly a Miku girl as well. That's where we stand united.
I didn't give a fuck about Yotsuba winning, okay? Even though, like...
But see, I was okay with anyone winning except Yotsuba. I fucking hated Yotsuba.
To me, it felt random that Yotsuba won, I'll be honest.
But it's like I kind of skipped around a bit. I shouldn't say I stopped reading. I skipped around to the end to see if they could make Yotsuba acceptable to me, and they could not. It seemed like everything they did for Yotsuba was shoved in the last second. Like it felt like they had no planning and it feels like they didn't start writing it with the idea that Yotsuba was going to win. What I was left with. However, with Oresuki, you could tell from the start that no one other than Pansy was going to win.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
It was very obvious that Pansy was going to win. So that's, when you go into it knowing that, that's fine.
If you go into it knowing that the most depressed chick, with, possibly the most compared to the other characters, bare bone personality, it's like, she's going to win, but probably more likely going to accept it unless you, like any of the other girls. But
now back to Rental Girlfriend for a second.
Let me tell you. Okay, let me tell you this right now. I hate, oh my god. Oh, this series. It pisses me off, okay? I love the series, but it's like that love-hate relationship where it's like, I really know who's gonna win it. but it's not gonna be the girl I like. It's not going to be the fucking girl I like. It's going to be the worst one.
But see,
Unpopular opinion
is going into Oresuki knowing that Pansy's going to win helps you draw the attention specifically to her instead of being able to form the attention to the other girls.
That's true. And the thing is with unlike Rental Girlfriend, is I can accept that even if I liked, let's say, Hirata Aoi, okay, or liked Cosmos,
on the topic of Rental Girlfriend, let's just take 1 second to let everyone know the best girls. Because mine is very, very controversial opinion here. So just, who's your best girl?
Ruka.
Ruka's a very close second to me.
Yours is Sumi, right?
Not anymore. I've had a bit of an opinion change.
Oh no. Oh no.
I think Mami is the best girl.
Okay. While she is not my second, because Sumi is definitely second, I really love Mami so much, dude.
Just that personality kind of grew on me a little bit through a second read through. Just like the almost I wouldn't say yandere, but definitely that kind of like obsession kind of made me go, okay.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And like the unnecessary amount of hate for her, just sorry, it's like
if Suki was around a little bit, or if Sumi was around a little bit more, she definitely would be my best girl. But
honestly, though,
she's just not center stage enough for me to have.
Right. That's what I hate. It's like she's only going.
And that was ended up being my problem with Ruka. Is that when she's first introduced, I really liked her because it was close enough of a race that you could see that they might throw the bone to Ruka and like surprise us all, and Ruka wins.
Right.
But then as the series went on, it became more and more clear that obviously Chizuru was going to win. I stopped
pisses me off.
Ruka.
That pisses me the fuck off. God damn it. Hey, as well, I'm going to say this as well, okay? While I truly believe, still to this day, that Rental Girlfriend is going to get a season 2. Because there's no way they're just gonna throw Sumi like, oh yeah, well here's 2 episodes. Maybe she'll have an entire episode dedicated to just her.
I have a strong feeling that it's gonna end up being one of them. Hey, read the manga kind of endings. I don't think it's gonna get a season 2. I'll be genuinely.
I hope to God it doesn't end like that, because that would just suck. You have the because especially. It's one of the
It's going to pull a Devil's a part-timer and say, hey, fuck you guys, go buy our books.
Yeah. It's like, this is the biggest anime, arguably, of 2020. And you're only going to give it 1 season. Ooh. I mean, fucking Eurocamp gets a season 2. I mean, fucking Nanyan Biyori gets a 3rd season in winter. Okay? It's like, like, as much as I love those 2 series, they weren't the biggest anime of 2018 or whatever, the year Nanyan Biyori came out, which was like back in like 2013 if I remember. But fucking hell, this is the biggest. We're talking the biggest anime of 2020, and it's not. And if it doesn't get a season 2, holy shit, that's going to be hell. There's going to be hell. But fucking hell.
Since we're on the topic of Rental Girlfriend for a second, I'm gonna talk about the dub.
Oh, what are your thoughts
unpopular opinion? The dub isn't bad. It's not the best dub I've seen. I definitely think some characters could have seen some better actors get chosen for them, but it's not that bad. I think all the girls are very fitting. The only character that really bothers me is the main guy, Kazuya. Oh, that's the only voice that really bothers me, is not being good.
I mean, okay, and if we're talking about like voice actors or whatever, so the 4 girls all have like amazing fucking characters. Okay, obviously Chizuru has Sora, who played Aqua and played several other characters. You got Mami, who has Aoyuki, who's played I'm trying to think of some of her. I think she played somebody in Eurocamp, if I remember correctly. I think it was what was her name? Hold on, give me a second here. She's played in like a ton of other series that I've seen as well.
I have it pulled up right now. I'm trying to quickly look for you. You're talking about Aoyuki, right? The voice of Mami?
Yeah. She played fucking hell, what she played somebody in the fucking the Neptune game.
She wasn't in Euro, looks like. Or the Eurocamp.
I thought she was. Hold on.
Not according to Wikipedia.
Hold on, give me a second. Scroll down. Oh, she played Komachi in the the fucking Snafu series. Oh, okay, I guess not. Shit. I guess I was thinking of something else. Never mind. I guess I was thinking of Komachi from the Snafu series. That's what I was thinking of.
I personally know nothing about the Japanese Sairus. I'm all about the English voice actors. It's been mentioned in the show before that between the two of us, you're the sub watcher, I'm the dub watcher.
Yeah.
Let's face it, I prefer manga over anime, so I do watch anime. I do watch the dub most of the time.
There's two
just
sides
because
to the
I
story.
prefer the manga. As I've grown older, I've come to prefer the manga just because my reading speed is significantly quicker than watching speed. That's always set to 30 minutes.
And if we're speaking about actors really quick here, Ruka is voiced by Naoto Yama, so that's another reason why I love her. I'm a little biased towards any characters that are played by Naoto Yama because she's one of my favorite characters. But let's get back on the topic of Oresuki really quickly. All right, because I do want to ask this. The most important question of a review is the score. Now, depending on I guess you can, because technically the OVA is separate, so if you want to, combine the scores or do something like that, you can. I'll probably do that myself, but if you want to, do a score for the manga or the light novel or, the anime series separate from the OVA, then, whatever. Just, what do you rate this series overall? Out of 10? I'm not asking the hard ones here.
See, the problem is I had a score set based on the manga versus the anime. But finding out that I was incorrect kind of
fucked that score up a little bit.
Thinking of the manga, the best parts of the manga combined with the best parts of the anime, that's what I'll do. The added extra content of forgetting the shitty parts of the anime and merging the good parts with the manga, I really have to give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Ooh, that's a pretty high score. It's pretty high.
It is one of, if not the best harems I have ever watched because it kind of subverts the genre.
Yeah, it's a
taking
different kind.
Taking the goods with the bads. Definitely give. If it was the manga, I would give it 9 out of 10. The anime kind of lowers it by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
I take that back. I can't give it that close to a perfect score. Thinking about what other things I've rated 9 out of 10, I would give it a solid 8.
All right,
it's just not good enough to get a 10. The manga, it probably sits on my top 50 list.
All right. So, I personally, because the thing is that I kind of found the anime series itself without the OVA. While it was amazing to watch, I kind of felt like it was one of those kinds of series where I would watch it and then, unless there was some sort of finale, I was gonna forget all about it. And I kind of think
that correct? Did you?
Well, it got a finale, so I remember it more. But
did you remember it before the finale was announced or released?
Not really. I'll be quite honest. I mean, I talked about it every once in a while, but literally, other than this podcast episode, I have probably only mentioned this series maybe one other time, not counting last week's technically this week's episode, but last week's episode. I have not really talked about it, and I've done a lot of episodes where I talk about anime recommendations or whatever. But that is not to say it is a terrible series. It's just with how the series was paced and stuff like that, it just felt like one of those shows where it was if it doesn't get a proper finale, then it would just be forgettable because, there's no finale or whatever. And reading the light novel or the manga would most of the time would not, happen for many otakus out there. But since this got a finale, and since we're talking about this, the anime itself, I think I gave it, I can't remember the exact score, but I think I gave it a 7.5. Not a too high of a score, but also not, it's a very all right.
I can agree with that. If I separate the idea of the manga and just talk about season 1, I think 7.5 is pretty respectable over that.
But
because the animation, I really liked. I loved the art style of the animation.
Yeah, the animation was amazing, and as well as like the voice actors and everything were incredibly like well done, especially for Joru. How he was able to like if you can get that kind of voice where you could go from a high pitched like happy voice to like a very deep like sinister voice, dude, that takes some talent. Okay, I can't do that with my voice. I can try, but it would hurt my throat, and ears. Animation and voice acting were really good, I'll admit that, but it get the score gets bogged down due to the fact of like the pacing of the story and how it kind of goes like inconsistent at times, and then it's not perfect, of course, but that OVA though is a whole different story, because while it's an original ending, so it's. And the pacing itself and the
original in quotation marks, because that was pretty fucking generic.
Well, I do say that. I said this earlier, I've never been that excited about a baseball game, and while I do kind of find it generic with how the story went, I still had to say, that OVA really made it fucking amazing, okay? This may be recency bias, but I totally gave that OVA like a very high, like 9 or a 10 or whatever, because it's generic, but damn, those twisted turns had me on my toes. Because it was like, especially near the end, where it's like, okay, are they done? All right, they gotta be done. No more, they can't do more turns than this. Oh, there's another turn? Oh, shit, there's another turn. It's like a blind turn after blind turn. I was like, dude, this is some good shit. Some good shit. But like, overall, the series, I would basically agree with you and say it's about an 8. 8 out of 10 at least, because it is it's a different harem show compared to like others. Like, it's different from Nisekoi, it's different from quintessential quintuplets. It's completely different because without like you just have to see it to believe it, obviously, because
it's very best put that it's a subversion of harems.
Right.
Harems are oversaturated. It's an oversaturated market for harems. We have 8 kabillion of them.
Yep,
and as someone who's read 8 kabillion of them, this is a very breath of fresh air in the genre.
Absolutely. I kind of wish that there was something like this as well. Something along lines like this. Or at least have more adaptations of shows like this. Because this show just it's like a breath of fresh air to the genre of harem, of course.
Now, would you like a show that was similar to this, but even more extreme in the weirdness aspect?
Curious has peaked?
If that's the case, I would definitely watch Now Come, or My Mental Choices Are Completely Interfering with My School Romantic Comedy.
Oh, that's in my watch list. I was actually thinking of watching this.
Very similar to the show in the sense that
yes,
the comedy is wacky and out of nowhere.
Awesome. Now I have another reason.
It is not quite a subversion of the harem genre like this one. But Now Come is good, but it's kind of just mediocre and average. But the humor is, if you like the random LOL WUT humor, Now Come is definitely a good one to go to.
Oh,
but I'll leave you off with this last thing. Now Come, there is no manga, the light novel is not translated, and there's no proper ending.
Motherfucker! Okay.
The light novel was stopped translating because the illustration, or no, not the illustration artist, the person translating it disliked the fact that the writer had something to do with a doujin for High School DxD.
Oh my god.
I don't recall the details because this was in 2011 that I researched this, because that's when I watched Now Come.
Oh boy.
I believe it was along the lines of the translator had an issue with someone involved with the light novel also making a doujin about High School DxD and refused to finish translating the work.
Must be 16 years old. Great.
So unfortunately, Now Come does not have an ending.
God damn it. And there's another series as well that I was getting into, and it's the Saikano How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend series. I finished season 1.
I started reading that one last week, actually. It's funny you mentioned that.
I've severely considered not watching season 2, not just because of the story not really. Oh god.
I was so bored by the manga, I actually dropped it. And I've only dropped 3 mangas in the history of me reading manga.
It's not just because of like the story, and it's just like, oh, the
story is as boring as the girlfriend he's trying to raise.
Right. But as well as the motherfucking season 2 is on Amazon Prime. And I don't have Amazon Prime. And I don't want to get Amazon.
Who exists in 2020 and doesn't have Amazon Prime?
I don't want to pay for Amazon. That's the thing. It's already bad enough I spend like $60 on Amazon just to get like something small. Okay?
As somebody who needs things to me immediately, Amazon Prime's 2-day shipping is well worth the $10 or $12 a month I pay.
I do have some patience. I can wait if I need to. Okay.
When it comes to money and buying things, I have zero patience for it to not immediately be in my hands.
Probably when I actually like have to like move or whatever, buy some furniture, I'll probably have to use Prime. So it's like, okay, come here now. Get to me now. I don't want to sit on a fucking folding chair in the middle of a dead house or whatever, empty house. So
what I've been really into recently is I just got caught up on Uzaki-chan, which is similar to Nagatoro. But before
opinions. What do you think of it? What do you think of it?
Of Uzaki-chan?
Yes.
I absolutely loved it.
Yes! All right.
Yes. I fall for the bait, hook, line, and sinker every time we have a manga that's like delinquent bully girl and nerdy Paisan guy. Just like Nagatoro or this, or Passion Noburi. I don't know the English name of that one.
Oh, I love Uzaki so much.
I am a stickler for the female delinquent male character type genres.
Dude. Okay.
Did you read the manga or did you watch the anime?
I've watched the anime and then I ended up reading a bit of the manga. I've gotten to the point where I need to read more of the manga because the anime's caught up to where I'm at in the manga. So, but I think what I've seen, because I like didn't get spoiled too much, but like, you know, the pacing is not perfect, of course, but like, oh my god.
Well, it's also layered like almost a gag manga is the best way I could describe it.
Yeah.
It's just like short chapters, self-contained except for a little bit of it.
Yeah.
It was a really enjoyable palate cleanser for what I'm going to get on to now is the manga I read before that was Tokyo Revengers. I don't know why I kept calling it Tokyo Ravengers the whole time I was reading it. I could not tell you the last time that I picked up a manga and could not put it down till I finished it than I did with Tokyo Revengers. And the fact that I read, I believe it was a total of 8.5 hours over the course of 3 days.
I think I did
just reading Tokyo Revengers.
Oh boy.
And the fact that was 255 chapters at the time, the fact that now I have to wait weekly for 20 fucking pages of it is killing me on the inside.
Dude, the only time where I've had that happen to me was when I was reading Domestic Girlfriend. So, that was way back then. Back then,
we've talked about that dumpster fire of an ending on this show, right?
I think so.
I think that was the last episode I was on, was that dumpster fire.
I think so. I cannot remember exactly. I may have to go back and listen to it just to be on the safe side of things.
That might have been one we recorded and didn't upload, because I know there was one we recorded.
Oh, yeah, that may have been that, because I don't remember really talking about Domestic Girlfriend other than my Weeb reviews.
I was curious. I was curious of the episodes I was in on the Spotify, because I've never been on Spotify before.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was one missing that I couldn't tell you which one it was.
I think that may have been that one, because we do go on a lot of tangents.
We also probably should cut this out of the podcast of us talking about the podcast.
Oh, I don't care. I really don't care. Because, like, oh man, I don't remember I'm trying to think, because I do remember we did talk a little bit about Domestic Girlfriend.
We talked about it in my first appearance on the podcast, and
If
then
I
I
remember.
think we did a podcast dedicated just to the dumpster fire that was that fucking ending.
Yeah. Well, at least on... Well, there was a unreleased version of it, though. I remember recording one myself, and that was just myself talking about it. But, yeah, when I was reading the manga originally, that's what I ended up doing, was binging the entire manga up to, like, its current chapter point, which was, like, 229.
Honestly, Domestic Girlfriend was the last manga that I picked up that I couldn't put down.
Yeah. I've been the same way. I think the only other time, like, I've read, like, a shit ton of chapters in one sitting was Fettuccine Puro or Innocent Love. Oh, great.
Could you hear my disdain in that one?
I could, and
Are you caught up?
not quite yet, because I have been a few
They
chapters.
do this stupid fucking thing with this, okay? Where they finish it and say, hey, we're gonna keep this manga going with a whole different set of fucking characters that you don't give a fuck about because you just read 60 or however many fucking chapters of characters you love. Now here's 3 people you don't give a fuck about. And it still gets me every time my manga updater goes ping with a new chapter of that. I go, oh yeah, I fucking hate this now because it's 3 people I don't give a fuck about.
And here I am wanting that to get animated for an anime.
Little bit of a rant here. That manga, I want to like it so bad, but it's so fucking slow. It is one of the epitomes of real people aren't this way.
Oh.
I wanted to like it so bad if they just like took the first 10 chapters, took the last 5 chapters, and made a 15 fucking chapter manga instead of 30 chapters of I only love you for your hair. I only love you for your back. Cool. Let's repeat that for 50 fucking chapters. There's just so many chapters where there's no fucking development that didn't fucking matter.
I don't know if I should talk about this. Well, maybe I should. Maybe I can. I'm not sure. But there has been one series I've been getting into recently. Whether it was because I was a little forced in this situation. It's not Meguro-sans first time. I've recently got into that series, and you probably know why.
Yeah, I know why. We both work on that series.
Yep.
I was the proofreader for most of it.
Yeah.
And then about 3 chapters after I stopped being the proofreader on it because I took a step back, Taylor became the typesetter for it.
Yep. I technically haven't typeset anything yet because this upcoming chapter, which is chapter 35, is my first. I'm a little worried because I've never typeset in my life, and this series is quite big. Yeah, so there's that. Has anybody listening made it this far in the episode? If you read that manga, get up to chapter 35.
I mean, let's face it, if you're reading It's Not Meguro-sans first time, you should also read all the other fine mangas offered by NTS Scans.
Yes.
I personally really like the fuck do you say it? Kono Healer Mendo Kusai. But unfortunately, that manga has been put on hold due to lack of staff.
Boo. Is it because I guess we can talk about that later. Anyways, I think we could wrap up this episode because I don't know how long this is I don't know how
We're
long.
looking about an hour and 5 minutes ish.
Yeah, but then again, there was like a part where we were like just talking about random stuff beforehand, before the intro.
Yeah, there's a good amount that could probably be cut from this, including
Yep.
this little conversation right here.
But yeah. So basically, to put things simply short, Oresuki is definitely a good series to watch. However, there are some issues. Basically every other anime ever. Alright. So, I want to thank everybody who's tuned into this episode, made it all the way to the end.
Thank you, Taylor, for welcoming me back to the podcast.
Obviously. If anybody wants to send anything, either comments, questions, topics, anything, JapanaholicPC@gmail.com is the email to send that stuff in. I could probably read that off in a podcast, later podcast episode. The Twitter page at the Japanaholic1, where you'll go where you could go and see my taste in anime, whether that be good, bad, ugly, or great. Who knows? The YouTube channel, Japanaholic channel, has, let me see, how many has it right now? I think it's 1,100.
You're racking in them views on this, Mitch.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's currently sitting at 1,112, so hopefully that grows by the end of this week. Next week, I think I'll talk. Yeah, I mentioned this in the last episode. I'll talk about virtual YouTubers because that's been a hot subject. So I want to talk about that. So next week will be about virtual YouTubers, and I want to thank everybody for watching this episode. I've been Taylor, the Certified Japanaholic, signing off. Good night.